Like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
The Guardian view on expanding NATO. Putin has only himself to blame. Support for membership in Finland and Sweden shows the Russian president's assault on Ukraine has only strengthened the alliance. In 2019, Emmanuel Macron declared that NATO was becoming brain-dead. The French president's warning was prompted by fears that the US, under Donald Trump, could no longer be relied upon to come to the defense of NATO allies. Mr. Trump last month confirmed that he had threatened not to defend them against Russia. Fewer than 3 years on from Mr. Macron's warning, the alliance is reinvigorated. Members have increased defense spending significantly, though only 8 out of 30 met the target of 2% of GDP last year. Finland and Sweden, long resistant to joining, are knocking on the door. Nothing has done more for NATO solidarity and expansion than Vladimir Putin's brutal and unprovoked invasion of Ukraine. As the Swedish Prime Minister, Magdalena Andersson, observed, there is a before and after the 24th of February. Finland's President and Prime Minister, Sauli Niinisto and Sanna Marin, declared on Thursday that their country must apply to join without delay. Sweden's ruling Social Democrats, long split over the issue, are now expected to opt for membership on Sunday. In Finland, support for NATO membership had never risen above 30% since the end of the Cold War, and often fell below 20%. It currently stands at 76%. In Sweden, where non-alignment, preceded by neutrality, has been more ideological, rather than pragmatic, support has also surged. More than 57% of people now support membership. Both countries are receiving a warm welcome. Their membership would increase NATO's ability to defend the Baltic. In reality, they are already close partners, taking part in exercises and sharing intelligence with the alliance. But entry would formally bind them to the common security guarantee set out in Article 5 of the treaty, stating that an attack on any member is an attack on all, and committing members to defend each other. NATO expansion has doubtless contributed to Mr. Putin's paranoid mindset. He sees the organization as little more than an expression of US power. But it is primarily Russian aggression that has driven expansion, not vice versa. The fear of provoking Moscow tied the hands of its neighbor Finland and Sweden for years. Now the all-out assault on Ukraine has led many to conclude that there is nothing to lose, while Russia's failures there have suggested that it may be less fearsome than they thought. Sweden and Finland joining NATO would leave Kaliningrad, home of Moscow's Baltic Sea Fleet, encircled. Predictably, Russia has vowed retaliation for the Finnish announcement. It had already said it would deploy nuclear weapons in the Baltic, though the real threat is more likely to come in the form of disinformation, cyber attacks, and other provocations. Yet Moscow should not be the alliance's only concern. It must also look closer to home. In the US, 57 Republicans voted against the $40 billion aid package for Ukraine in the House of Representatives, and it faces Republican objections in the Senate. As the Democrats flounder, the specter of Donald Trump, or someone like him, as the 47th president looms larger. And despite the defeat of Marine Le Pen in last month's French presidential election, ambivalence or antagonism towards NATO has not vanished from Europe. In Italy, where a general election is due next year, most voters oppose the government's decisions to increase defense spending and send arms to Ukraine. The alliance exists to counter the threat on its eastern borders. It can only do so by remaining vigilant to internal vulnerabilities. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has abruptly transformed the world. Millions of people have already fled. A new Iron Curtain is grinding into place. An economic war deepens. As the military conflict escalates, civilian casualties rise and evidence of horrific war crimes mounts. It's our job at The Guardian to decipher a rapidly changing landscape, particularly when it involves a mounting refugee crisis and the risk of unthinkable escalation. Our correspondents are on the ground in Ukraine and throughout the globe delivering round-the-clock reporting and analysis during this perilous situation. We know there is no substitute for being there. And we'll stay on the ground, as we did during the 1917 Russian Revolution, the Ukrainian famine of the 1930s, the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991 and the first Russo-Ukrainian conflict in 2014. We have an illustrious, 200-year history of reporting throughout Europe in times of upheaval, peace and everything in between. We won't let up now. Tens of millions have placed their trust in The Guardian's fearless journalism since we started publishing 200 years ago, turning to us in moments of crisis, uncertainty, solidarity and hope. We'd like to invite